The Johnsky is a YouTube channel run by and run for people over the age of 13. People under the age of 13 should click off of this video right now, or watch with a parent or guardian. Viewer discretion is advised.
You don't scare me!
Mills is freaking today, militiamen. My name is King Prime, and welcome back to another video here on the YouTube channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at another Star Wars The Vintage Collection figure, that being the Star Wars The Vintage Collection Obi-Wan Kenobi Grand Inquisitor. We Star Wars fans, or we Rebels fans more accurately, have been waiting for a good version of this figure for about a decade now, which is funny to me and also absolutely horrifying. However, it is a shame that we had to wait until Obi-Wan Kenobi to get this character and to get this version of this character. But before I start complaining, let's take a look at the packaging before we take a look at the figure. Up top here, we do have the Obi-Wan Kenobi logo done up in that nice deep crimson red that we have gotten used to with these vintage collection figures. We have a lighter green nameplate to match the green pill of the bubble. We have a nice picture of the Grand Inquisitor there from the show, as well as the Kenner logo down at the bottom. On the back here, we have the other figures released in this line. The Grand Admiral Thrawn, who I've reviewed, Morgan Elsbeth, who I will be reviewing, the Grand Inquisitor, obviously, Ahsoka Tano, who I've reviewed, HK87, who I probably won't get, Tusken Boba Fett, who I probably won't get, Luke Skywalker from the Jedi Academy, who I probably won't get, and Moff Gideon, who I've reviewed. Down at the bottom, we have some legal jargon, and that is about it. I say it in every single video, my friends, but you only really care about the packaging if you're a carded collector, of which I am not. I'm here to open and review toys, and that is just what I'm going to do. Freeze frame.
Hello, third sister.
Freeze frame on freeze, and here is the Grand Inquisitor out of the packaging, but before we take a look at him, we'll take a look at his accessories. So first, of course, we have my favorite accessory that I ever have in every single vintage collection figure, the unextended hilt of the lightsaber. In this time, it is the Grand Inquisitor's, and it is absolutely gorgeous. Tons of little details picked out in nice silver and gray paint, as well as that nice gunmetal gray plastic that they always use for these kinds of figures. Absolutely fantastic detail, and of course, you see those two little pegs, which means you can plug this into the back of the Grand Inquisitor's cape, like you see it done in the show and in Rebels, which is fantastic, and it stays there very well. The other accessory, of course, is the extended version of that blade. Unfortunately, it does not spin, so we don't get any helicopter action, but you can, rotate it in your hands and, make jokes at Disney's expense. Still done up in that nice silver, gray, and gunmetal plastic, but there are, of course, blades now attached, so it does look very menacing. I do like the length of this, and it is very well painted, so I will give it credit for that. And, of course, the Grand Inquisitor can hold it. Once you have it in his hand, it is kind of awkward to hold since, it is a ring and you can't really get it facing straight either way, but you can do the Darth Maul thing and have it, straight out to the side, which is cool, but I always prefer helicopter. I'm never going to live that down. That's just too funny to me. But, of course, he can hold that, and those are his accessories. Moving on to the figure himself, though, this is a great representation of the Grand Inquisitor from Obi-Wan Kenobi, and that is all I can say. The head sculpt looks like it did in that show. Very good face detailing. Again, they always nail it with that photoreal technology. Absolutely fantastic likeness. The sculpt is really good to represent how he looked in the show. How this represents the character and the species that the Grand Inquisitor is as a whole is a different story that I can complain about for hours. I will personally be getting a new head for this to make him look more like he did in Rebels, and then painting that up because this head just does not cut it for me. But for what it is a very good likeness. The rest of the Inquisitor armor, however, is very nice, shiny black plastic, which is awesome. It goes all the way down to his legs. And his boots as well, which are, just knee-high clodhoppers. They might be Soviet in origin, judging by that little flap there, but, that's just my military historian kicking in. He does have nice detailing around his belt, some, gray and red buttons, as well as that silver buckle there. Nothing on the other side. but that armor is still shiny and smooth and is pretty awesome. As you can tell as well, there is a cape here. On film it appears purple, but I promise it's black in person. It doesn't look bad. And on the inside, it's actually like a maroon burgundy kind of color, which is awesome to see. So the two-tone cape. I love to see that this figure has this. Soft goods capes are a personal plus, in my opinion. I love whenever figures have these. I'm just kind of questioning why the Grand Inquisitor has this and some other figures don't. Krennic. We'll get to that later. As for the articulation of this figure, the Grand Inquisitor does have a dumbbell joint at the head, so he can get a great range of motion. He can also do the pretty well, not so well, but the sideways it doesn't matter as much as the forwards. He does have a pretty limited range of motion due to the armor at the shoulders, which sucks, but he does get a full 360 range of motion. A pretty good elbow bend, which can, of course, swivel to the side. A rotation at the wrist with an in and out joint on the left hand, and an in and out joint on the right. So both in and out joints, which is strange to see, but it kind of makes sense given the shape of this lightsaber. If he had an up and down joint, he'd be stabbing himself every time you tried to pose him. So it kind of makes sense with this one. It's not the worst I've seen. He does have an ab crunch, but it is, again, very limited by the sculpting. And nothing at the waist proper, but again, you can fake it because of that joint on the inside. You do have some nice ball joints at the hips, however, they are limited by the thigh armor, which kind of sucks. If you get them out of the way, you can get more of a spread, but not by much. You do, of course, have that thigh swivel, which I just exhibited, as well as a knee bend, as well as a foot down and up, and an ankle pivot to get those nice far leaning poses, even though that's about as far as you're going to get him to lean. The sculpting and the painting of this figure are fantastic. However, the articulation is pretty not the greatest. Before we talk about that, let's get some other figures in here so we can show you exactly how the Grand Inquisitor compares to some others. Freeze frame.
Crikey, there he is! That's the didgeridoo who still owes me money.
Freeze frame on freeze. So here is the Grand Inquisitor next to the golden standard of action figures himself. Dark Times Darth Vader, his boss. Here he is next to our previous Star Wars The Vintage Collection review. Book of Boba Fett, Cad Bane. Here he is next to a Vitruvian Hax skeleton. And here he is next to a Mandalorian of my own design. As you can see, the Grand Inquisitor is of normal to a little bit taller height. He would be a hair shorter than Cad without his hat, and he is, again, a hair shorter than the Mandalorian with its helmet on. About the same size as the skeleton, so he's of pretty normal stature. That's how he compares to some other figures. Let's move on and get on to my final thoughts so I can tell you exactly what I think about the Grand Inquisitor. Freeze frame.
Patterson, fire a warning shot. Sir, this is an M32 grenade launcher. Potato. Just fire it, Patterson.
Freeze frame on freeze. So overall, this figure, I can only really say it's okay. Though the sculpting and the painting on this figure are phenomenal, and I love the inclusion of that cape, I cannot give it a great rating because its articulation is just kind of ass. Even though you can pull off poses like this and make it look good, dealing with this figure and fiddling with it just to get it into this pose and inevitably have it fall over is going to wear thin on the minds of just about any collector, myself included. Another gripe, which is, again, no fault of Hasbro's, and, not to defend the multi-billion-dollar corporation, but the design of this figure, at least in the head region, is ass. The body is perfect to use for, any kind of Inquisitor that you want. I'd definitely do a head swap with this and put on a Starkiller head or a Cal Kestis head or any other of those swaps so that you can get, your favorite OC or your favorite fanfiction characters or whatever. But for this figure, that sculpt that they used in Kenobi just does not work well. And it really kind of detracts from this figure. However, I can look past it because that is, in the past, and even though I'm upset about it as a Rebels super fan, the figure does look pretty good for what it is, as I've said. But if what I've said hasn't dissuaded you, or you like the Grand Inquisitor, Star Wars Rebels, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Star Wars in general, what have you, make sure you share this video with your friends, share it with the Facebook groups, all that good stuff. If you like the content, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe down below. It keeps helping the channel grow, keeps helping me pump out this content. That's going to be pretty much it for this time, my friends. Thank you all so very much for watching, and as always, peace.